Every morning at 7:12 a.m., Evan saw the same man step out of apartment 6B, tall, neatly dressed, always holding a coffee cup. He'd give Evan a polite nod, walk down the hall, take the stairs, and disappear. Routine, predictable, comforting even. Evan didn't know his name, but after 2 months of seeing him every morning, he felt like he knew him anyway. But on Wednesday, everything was different. Evan stepped into the hallway at the usual time and froze. Apartment 6B's door was wide open, not cracked, not half shut, wide open. Inside, the lights were off, the air felt stale, dust floated through thin beams of sunlight. Something felt wrong. Evan quietly stepped closer, peeking inside the apartment. Empty, not unfurnished, abandoned. No couch, no table, no dishes, no clothes, not even dust spots where furniture should have been. Just bare floors and walls and silence. It wasn't like someone had just moved out. It looked like no one had lived there in years. Evan stepped back in the hall, heart pounding. But then, heavy footsteps echoed from the stairwell, slow, measured, coming up from below. Evan turned his head. The man from 6B walked into view. Same height, same clothes, same coffee cup. He smiled gently, the same smile Evan saw every morning, and walked straight into the empty apartment. The moment he crossed the doorway, the lights inside flickered on, just for a second. And in that split-second flash, Evan saw something impossible. The apartment wasn't empty anymore. It was fully furnished, warm, lived in, like a normal home. Then the lights flicked off again, and the man disappeared inside. Evan whispered, "What did I just see?" A cold breeze drifted out from the pitch-black apartment, and from inside the darkness came the soft noise of someone pulling a chair out, even though there was no chair. Evan stood frozen in the hallway, staring into the darkness of apartment 6B. The man had walked in normally, like nothing was strange, like the empty room was fully furnished, like he belonged there. But Evan had seen it, that split-second flash. Furniture, warm lights, a shadow sitting at a table, a mug steaming. And when the lights went out, everything vanished again. Evan took a small step toward the doorway. The air pouring out of the apartment felt cold, like a window was open inside. But there were no windows, not in this building's layout. He whispered into the darkness, "Hello?" No answer. Just that low, steady hum, the kind old refrigerators make. But there was no fridge inside. Evan pulled out his phone and tapped the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark and landed on dust, bare floorboards, empty walls. Exactly how the apartment looked before. No sign of the man, no sign of furniture, not even footprints on the dusty floor. Nothing. But then, the flashlight shook slightly. Not from Evan's hand, from the floor. A vibration, like something heavy was walking inside the apartment. But the room in front of him was empty. Evan slowly lifted his phone higher, and the shadows in the far corner shifted. Not like a person moving, more like the darkness itself was rearranging. The vibration grew stronger. Thump, thump, thump. Footsteps, coming closer, but there was no one there. Evan's breath caught in his throat. He backed out of the doorway, and the moment his foot crossed the hall threshold, the apartment door slammed shut, hard. The lights inside flickered again, just for a fraction of a second, and in that tiny flicker, Evan saw the entire apartment lit up warmly again. The man from 6B was sitting calmly at the dining table with his coffee cup, smiling at Evan through the windowless wall like he could see him. The lights went dark. Silence returned. The door stayed shut. Evan stepped back, heart pounding. What is going on? Evan's hand trembled as he stared at the security notification. Motion detected outside your door. He opened the clip. The hallway feed showed him standing in front of apartment 6B, phone in hand, looking terrified. But behind him, a figure stood perfectly still, tall, neatly dressed, coffee cup in hand. The man from 6B. Except Evan hadn't heard footsteps behind him, hadn't felt someone walk up, hadn't seen any movement. Nothing. And the worst part? The figure wasn't coming from the stairwell or the elevator. It simply appeared. Between one frame and the next, there he was. Evan swallowed hard. He rewound the footage. Frame 1, Evan alone in the hallway. Frame 2, the man from 6B suddenly behind him. No transition, no blur, just instantly there, facing Evan, not the camera. Evan turned his head slightly, fearing he might actually see the man behind him now. Nothing. The hallway was empty. His phone buzzed again. New notification. Camera lost signal. The footage glitched. The frozen frame warped, stretching the man's silhouette unnaturally, as if the camera couldn't decide what shape he was supposed to be. Evan stepped farther away from 6B's door, heart pounding. "I need to talk to someone about this," he whispered. He hurried toward the elevator, but the moment he pressed the button, his phone buzzed again. Another motion alert, this time from the elevator camera. Against his better judgment, Evan tapped the feed. His stomach dropped. The elevator was on his floor, door open, lights on, and inside, the man from 6B was standing motionless, facing the hallway, facing Evan, holding the coffee cup. Same expression, same posture, except his shirt was slightly different than the version Evan saw earlier, and the way he held the cup was reversed, left hand instead of right, like this wasn't the same one, or worse, like there were multiple versions of him moving independently. Evan stepped back. The elevator doors began to close. Right before they shut, the man inside slowly lifted his head, but not like a normal person. His head glided upward as if pulled by strings until his face aligned directly with the camera, and he smiled. Not warm, not friendly, just aware, like he'd been waiting for Evan to realize something. As the doors sealed, the elevator panel dinged, and the car began going up to the floor above. But Evan hadn't pressed anything. He whispered, "If he's in the elevator, then who was standing in the apartment?" The hallway lights flickered. From behind apartment 6B's door, a soft, rhythmic tapping began. Tap, 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 like someone lightly knocking from the inside. The tapping behind apartment 6B's door grew slightly louder. Tap, tap, tap. Not urgent, not aggressive, just patient. Like whoever was inside already knew Evan wouldn't walk away. Evan took a shaky breath and stared at the faded metal numbers on the door. 6B. He'd lived on this floor for months, passed these doors every day, but something was nagging at him. He opened his phone and scrolled through the building's online layout, the floor maps, the apartment numbers, the leasing directory. His eyes widened. There was no 6B listed on the website. His floor had 6A, 6C, 6D, 6E. No missing gaps, no B anywhere. Evan refreshed the page, zoomed in, checked older versions of the layout. Still nothing. Apartment 6B didn't exist on paper. Not now, not ever. Tap, tap, tap. Evan backed away until his shoulders hit the opposite wall. "This doesn't make sense. I see people going in and out of it every day," he whispered. But as soon as he said it, a realization hit him like ice. He never saw people going in and out. Just one person. The same person. Every day. Same time. Same steps. Same nod. Like a loop. A routine. Or a script. He swallowed hard. His phone buzzed again. A new alert. Package delivered. Apartment 6B. Evan's blood ran cold. The building's system recognized the apartment, but the building's map said it didn't exist. He tapped the notification. A photo popped up. A small cardboard package sitting right at the doorstep of apartment 6B. Except the photo wasn't from a normal hallway camera angle. It was taken from inside the apartment, looking out, as if the delivery was placed on the floor and photographed from within the doorway. Evan stared at the image horrified, because in the corner of the picture, barely visible in the reflection of the doorframe, was the shape of someone standing inside, the man from 6B, but his head was turned farther than a human neck should turn, almost 180 degrees, facing the doorknob of apartment 6B turned with a slow, deliberate click. Evan's breath caught. The door didn't swing open, it just cracked, barely an inch, just enough for darkness to spill into the hallway like fog. Nothing moved inside. No footsteps, no shadow, no breathing. Just silence. Then, a soft voice, calm and familiar, spoke from inside the apartment. "You weren't supposed to check the cameras." Every hair on Evan's arms stood up. It was his voice, not the man from 6B. His own. Evan stepped back, shaking his head. "No, no, who are you? What are you?" The voice replied, "You don't need to know. You only need to leave." Evan's pulse hammered as he stared at the crack in the door, expecting someone or something to appear. But the apartment stayed pitch black, like the darkness was deeper than normal darkness, thicker, hiding something too large to step into the light. Evan whispered, "Why do you look like him? Why does he look like me?" A soft sigh came from inside. Not frustrated, not angry, more like disappointment. "He doesn't look like you. You look like him." Evan froze. His chest tightened. His mind raced. "What does that mean?" he whispered. The voice answered gently. "You moved onto his floor, into his building, into his routine." The door opened another inch, still too dark to see inside. This place isn't meant to have new people. Evan backed toward the elevator. "This is crazy. I'm calling the police." From inside apartment 6B, "They won't find this place." Evan turned and ran for the elevator, but his phone buzzed again. A new notification. "Motion detected. Elevator interior." He tapped it without thinking. The live feed opened, and his stomach dropped. The elevator doors were open, and inside, the man from 6B was standing perfectly still. Same outfit, same posture, same crushed coffee cup. But this time, his head was tilted upward, staring directly into the elevator camera with a blank expression. No smile, no blink, just watching. The elevator doors began to close slowly, but before they sealed, the man lifted his hand and pointed directly at Evan. The feed froze, glitched, went black. Evan stumbled backward, breathing hard. Behind him, from inside apartment 6B, the gentle voice spoke again, much closer to the door now. You know he can see you now. He won't ignore you anymore. The doorknob turned fully, and the door began to open. The door to apartment 6B swung open at last. No wind, no dramatic slam, just a slow, steady motion, like someone invisible was pushing it outward. Evan held his breath. The apartment should have been empty. He knew it was empty, but now, warm yellow light filled the space. Furniture, bookshelves, a coffee table, a jacket hanging by the door. Everything he saw for split seconds in the flickering flashes earlier, now fully real, like the room had chosen to show itself. Evan stared in disbelief. Inside the apartment, sitting calmly at the small dining table, was the man from 6B. Hands folded, no coffee cup, just watching him. He didn't smile this time, didn't move, didn't blink, just stared. Evan's voice cracked. "What do you want from me?" The man tilted his head slightly, but it wasn't him who answered. The voice came from behind Evan, his own voice again. "We don't want anything from you." Evan spun around. The hallway was empty. The voice continued. "We just want things to stay the same." Evan backed into the doorway of 6B, panicking. What does that mean? Stay the same how? Silence. Then, from inside the apartment, the seated man finally spoke. "You moved into the wrong building." Evan stared at him. "That doesn't make sense." The man blinked slowly. "This floor doesn't change. The people here don't change. The routines don't change." Evan shook his head. That's impossible. People move all the time." The man's expression softened, almost sympathetic. "Not here." He pointed toward the hallway, to the elevator. Evan turned. The elevator doors were open, but this time, the interior was pitch black.
Hey guys, subscribe my channel for more videos.